I spent 3 weeks in Japan and learned a lot about their culture, food, architecture, and Pokemon. I'm Wags, and today I'll be your tour guide through the greatest adventure I've ever been on, in hopes that one day you could go on it too. Our hero begins his journey landing in the beautiful Kanto region at the Celadon City Airport, or the real-world equivalent of Tokyo. Did you know Game Freak bases their regions off real-world counterparts? I can finally say I stepped foot in both the Kanto and Johto regions in real life. Even in the first few minutes in the airport, you'll be greeted with the sight of Pokemon. They're everywhere, and when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. One of my first stops was to Shibuya City, home to the busiest intersection in the world with Shibuya Crossing. Nearby, we found Tower Records. There's a must-visit floor that contains all the Japanese soundtracks from games like Castlevania, Zelda, and of course, Pokemon. Without much thought, the entire original soundtrack was purchased. As we all know, the best Pokemon trainers leave time for a little food break. With our tummies full, it was time to visit my first Pokemon Center. This was the Shibuya City Pokemon Center and Design Lab, a unique little Pokemon Center that allows you to design and buy your own t-shirt. A great idea, but a line that was much too long for our very busy schedule. I did manage to clone Mewtwo though. Before the trip started, I told myself I wasn't going to buy anything until the end of my trip. But you guys know that you can't start a Pokemon journey without your starter. So, Blastoise joined my party. Quickly before we move on, if you guys are enjoying this video and want to see more Pokemon, I highly encourage you to subscribe to my channel. For those of you who are subscribed, thank you so much, and I hope others join us on our adventure. After the high of being in my first Pokemon Center, there was no other way but up. Yes, we found a rooftop patio in the building where we spent the next hour capturing the Pokemon Center gym in Pokemon Go. It was an all-out battle between the three factions, but Zapdos gang and Instinct finally prevailed. Honestly, it was insanely difficult to capture as an Instinct team because the Japanese love their female anime characters, and I guess no one feels the love for Spark. We couldn't leave this beautiful view without ripping our first Japanese Pokemon pack. Our first day ended with some custard, Nutella, and strawberry crepes, and a very happy Pokemon trainer. Our adventure continued the next day in Ikebukuro and Sunshine City. We got lucky and found this hidden shop, Card Labo, on the release day of Night Wanderer. I was caught up in the hype and bought a box knowing I wouldn't open it until I came home to you guys. We also bought a few single packs so my friend and I could have a little pack battle in the shop. And with a last-minute Monkey Dory EX pull, my friend won the pack battle. One particular card caught my attention as I was leaving, the Japanese Squirtle card, which we haven't seen released in English yet. I also got a Cleffa for my cousin's baby collection, then took off to explore other areas. Japan has these Pokemon card vending machines which are a death trap. They show you pictures of Grail cards from various sets, but the likeliness of ever getting them is extremely low. It's a losing game. I guess not so much different than buying packs. That being said, we of course had to give it a try. For content. Here's how it went. After spending $15 on 15 cents worth of cards, it was time to visit the second Pokemon Center on our journey. This one is home to the Pokemon Go Lab, displaying Pokemon Go stats like top defender, top teams, and the most used Pokemon. Look at these life-size leaders and Pokemon Go stock. I also got to witness locals putting their new Night Wanderer cards to the test. It's amazing to see an entire country adapt Pokemon cards into their culture. We finished off our day by playing some crane games, checking out some collectibles, and finding ourselves a beautiful night view of Tokyo atop Sunshine City. Our final few days in Tokyo were spent taking in the food, culture, and history. But don't you worry, we'll be back with more Pokemon shortly. And just like that, we set rails for the Kyoto region. Zipping across Japan at speeds of 300 kilometers an hour, it was time to rip a new pack. This time we're pulling Crimson Haze in an attempt to land cards such as Greninja, Heron, or Blood Moon Ursaluna. Kyoto was much quieter than the hustle and bustle of Tokyo. In the games, we know this as Ekrutik City, home to the Burning Tower and the legendary Pokemon Ho-Oh. We didn't see Ho-Oh, but Kyoto was filled with cultural landmarks and several hikes with very rewarding views. Throughout the trip, it was our goal to avoid the endless horde of tourists. A few times, like here at Fushimi in Nari, we found ourselves going off the beaten path. We just so happened to find a trail leading to the top of the mountain where very few set foot. We even stumbled upon an old shack with a waterfall where explorers like ourselves would leave behind a token of their stay. And with that, we had to pull another pack. This time, 151 and a potential Charizard pull with a bamboo forest background. Sadly, no luck on the pack, but we did leave behind a few cards with hope that you too will one day go on this journey and find my card.
There she goes.
Only 45 short minutes away from Kyoto lies Goldenrod City, Osaka, home to good food, late night drinking, and for us rare Pokemon card finds. Moments before I was about to head out of the card shop called Bihonpo Battle Tower, my friend found a gem I've been hunting on eBay for a while now, a Yukimori Hitmonchan from the Versus series that only released in Japan. And just around the corner we found ourselves another crane game, but this time filled with Pokemon cards. For 100 yen, I made my attempt to get a handful of Night Wanderer packs. My cameraman is new to the recording game and got a little too caught up in the hype. Apologies for the angle. And we get nothing, another victim of Whitney's games in Goldenrod City. We spent the next day traveling to Kobe, home to Kobe beef. You best believe 3 weeks before the trip, we reserved our spot at Royal Mariah to try this mouth-watering meal. But before we do that, we make our way up to Mount Roko, with my eyes set on a waterfall for another pull. With my chase in hand, it was time for a well-deserved meal. 10 out of 10, despite paying my future unborn child's tuition on a single meal. Once again, we hop on the bullet bill, this time making our way to the historical Hiroshima. After you step foot in Peace Park and the Atomic Bomb Museum, there's something about the place that feels different. We took some time to soak it all in before finding the most incredible little classic Nintendo bar. This place was filled with gems like the Power Glove, original Game Boy, and hit Japanese games. But nothing beats sitting down, grabbing a Sapporo, and playing a little Super Nintendo. Not far from Hiroshima is a little island called Itsukushima. With a 50-minute ferry from the train station, we found ourselves on an island with small deer, 2-bite oysters, and what is known as the floating shrine. A cool sight to see, but by this point of the trip we were a little tired and needed a relaxing beach day. A few acai dries later and another cold one cracked, it was time for a Night Wanderer pull. Sadly, that was not the case, but at least we were treated to another beautiful view. Our final location before heading back to Tokyo was Hakone, a mountainous town with hot springs and views of Mount Fuji, where at the peak waits Pokemon Master Red. Once again, we take our ropeway up and are treated to the most magnificent view of Mount Fuji. Along my hike of Lake Ashi, I encountered a Pokemon battle between Spinarak and Durant. Durant used Crunch and the Spinarak fainted. My deep-seated fear of bug Pokemon kicked in and it was time to get out of there. Not before making my way through this beautiful forest surrounding the lake. After a long day of hiking by Lake Ashi, it was time to put on the Yakuta and rip a Night Wanderer pack before hitting the onsens. After a few restful days in Hakone, it was time to make our way back to Tokyo. I made a critical error while observing Tokyo from the Sky Tower. I was oblivious to the fact that the Pokemon Center Sky Tower was right there. I'm sad to say this was a Pokemon Center I did not attend, but be sure to check it out as it features a gigantic Rayquaza. Very fitting. When we got back to Tokyo, it was a Cyndaquil community day in Pokemon Go, so we opted to walk around Kyoto City and catch Cyndaquil between trips to the Team Lab Museum and a giant Gundam. Of course we're playing a little Go when this is your sidewalk. In the final few days, it's time to seriously fill my suitcase. This meant more card shops, Pokemon Centers, and of course the Dawn. I started by visiting the Pokemon Center DX. This place welcomes you with a giant mural of the starter Pokemon for each type across generations. As we enter the Pokemon Center, we're greeted with a life-size Snorlax, as well as a wall that brings you through the history of the Pokemon games. I filled my cart with Pokemon plushies, Snorlax chopsticks, and of course, more cards before heading out. We made a pit stop at Yodobashi Akiba, a giant department store, where I dabbed up a wall of clone troopers and ripped another pack, for the dark side. In true dark side fashion, we got a whole lot of nothing. With every bad pack opening, I like to drown my sorrows in food. This time we mowed down on some fluffy pancakes. Look at these jiggly boys. One thing that amazed me even after 3 weeks in Japan is how much Pokemon is incorporated into their daily lives. In the Dawns, everything is Pokemon branded. It's insane. And finally, we woke up on the day that would end up being the 36 hours of travel due to several delays and of course a long layover in Calgary. In true Canadian hoser fashion, we rented a 3-hour stay at an internet cafe to watch the Stanley Cup final and, of course, to open another pack in the intermission. Blastoise and I have landed safely back in Canada and are happy to say we had an incredible adventure together. Before we head out, I want to answer some of the questions you guys might have about Japan, mainly about the costs, the Pokemon Centers, and Pokemon Go. Let's start off by looking at some of our costs. One of the ones that we experienced was, of course, the flight. Now, coming from Canada, flights are a little bit more expensive, and it was $1,700 Canadian, which is about $1,200 USD. Now, coming from the US or any other part, I imagine it's a lot less expensive. The second cost you'll experience are the hotel and Airbnb. Of course, it might be a little bit different during a specific season, but we paid a very good price of about $100 Canadian or about $73 USD per night. And we split that between the two of us, so only about half of that was my cost. Then you might be curious about Pokemon cards. It was about 180 yen, which comes to about $1.50 Canadian. Now, you only get 5 cards in each of your packs. Then if you plan to go to Osaka, Kyoto, or Hiroshima like I did, you're looking at a Shinkansen ticket of about $120 Canadian. Meals were pretty cheap, about $12, and you do not pay tip in Japan, which is nice. And then finally, you're going to want to travel using the metro or the JR line in Tokyo, Hiroshima, Osaka, and Kyoto. All of them have the same pass. You're looking at about 200 yen per trip. That's about 15 to 20 minutes long. And that comes to about $1.50 Canadian, or for my American friends, about $1.10. Now you might be wondering which Pokemon Center was my favorite. Well, they all have their unique little charm with their little Pokemon figures at the front, or the Design Lab, or the Pokemon Go. I'd suggest trying them all and seeing which ones are your favorite. The one thing that I would recommend is if you find a plushie that you like in one of them, just know that you might not find it anywhere else. So make that purchase if you can. And for my Pokemon Go friends, you'll be in luck because the Pokemon Go craze just never ended in Japan. And within any given spot, you'll have about 3 Pokemon stops. Here in Canada, where I live, you pretty much have to go for a 5-10 minute walk before you find any Pokemon Go stops. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to go and hit that like button if you enjoyed my Japan trip with a very specific Pokemon theme to it. And remember to go into the comments and let me know where you plan to go in Japan. And if you've already been, let me know if there was a place that I missed. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon. Take care. Goodbye.